If there is anyone amongst you who has been or who was a spiritual son or daughter, you need to be delivered. And if you are still a spiritual son or daughter to any African prophet or to any spiritual father, you need deliverance. You all need that spiritual cleansing. Some of you might have left these synagogues of Satan long time ago, but spiritually you're still bound to them. If you have submitted before, if you have called these men your spiritual fathers or spiritual mothers, that spiritual bond you formed needs to be broken. If that bond is not yet broken, if that spiritual tie is not yet broken, you are still spiritually tied to their dark covenants. Your spiritual fathers also submit to the dark lords of Benin, and they are tied to the dark lords. You submitting to your spiritual fathers, you have also tapped into the dark covenants of the dark lords by virtue of the spiritual fathers that you had direct contact with. If you have ever drank anointing oil, I know some of you drink it. If you have ever drank holy water, or if you have ever used any spiritual items from these African shrines, I know you call them churches, but they are shrines. If you have ever partake of any of their spiritual materials or edibles, you need to be delivered. You are still under a curse. You might be living normally, doing everything like a normal human being, but spiritually you are bound. It's even said if you have slept with an African prophet. And my sisters, if you, I know many of you, you slept with your spiritual fathers. If you did, your own deliverance is different. Your own deliverance has stages. Your own deliverance starts with water baptism. And we have to do cleansing so that we totally, completely separate you from the covenant that some of you unknowingly bound yourself to, unknowingly so. Those spiritual ties need to be severed urgently, as soon as possible. You might be wondering why your life is not making sense, why your life is not make sure, why things are not coming together. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you try, things are just not coming together. You might be wondering why you are still not yet married. Even though you have been seeding for marriage, you might be wondering why the financial breakthrough is not coming. Even though you have been tithing for the past years, you just do not know why your life is moving backwards when you are expecting it to accelerate, when you paid a seed for breaking limitations, when you declared over crossover that this year is your year, but still there is no sign. You might be wondering, and the reason is that you are bound to the dark anointing. Should I even call it anointing? To the dark spirits, to the dark covenants of your spiritual fathers. Because the so-called anointing of your spiritual fathers is meant to delay your progress. It seems as if it's meant to accelerate your progress, but it's meant to delay it. By delaying your progress, that's the only way they can conquer you. That's the only way they can dominate you. That's the only way they can control you. They are not here to save you. They are here to keep you in bondage. A man who is in bondage is easy to control, to manipulate, and to sacrifice. Eventually, the end goal is you being sacrificed. That is the end goal of all spiritual sons and daughters. That's why they keep you in these shrines. That's why they make you drink all these so-called anointed holy waters, anointed oils that are mixed with some dark elements and fluids from the mortuary. They do all that so that they keep you submissive. They do all that so that they keep you grounded. You see them washing your feet. It's not because they are humble, but they want to make sure that you never step out of those shrines. All those are rituals. They give you fruits, so-called spiritual fruits, so that you remain their puppets, their subjects. And you, in your ignorance, you have been chowing everything, chopping everything, drinking everything, anointing yourself all over the body with everything, thinking that those things are going to transform your lives, yet knowing that you are actually keeping yourself in bondage, imposing yourself to a lifetime prison sentence that you will never be able to break out of, unless children of God like myself come and help you out of these cages. Because most of you are in cages and you don't know. You're in cages. Your brains are frozen. You can't think. The only thing you can think is your spiritual father. The only thing you can imagine is your spiritual father. When you work hard, every return from your input is your spiritual father at the back of your head. What am I going to give to daddy? How much am I going to contribute to the ministry? That's how the rituals work. Even in your own household, before you eat food, you start imagining, did I buy groceries for my spiritual parents? Before you pay fees for your own children, you start imagining, did I contribute to the fees of my spiritual fathers? Before you even start a business or before you put any investment in your own life, you start to think, have I given my seed? Have I given my first fruit? Have I given my tithe? Yeah, that's how the dark spell works on you. And what gives all this dark influence that they have on you power is through the spiritual materials that they make you consume or use. If we look into your house right now, there are posters with the faces of your spiritual fathers. There are calendars with the faces of your spiritual fathers. Even on your wrist, you probably have wristbands with the faces of your spiritual fathers. Even your blankets, some of you, or your couch cushions, they probably have the face of your spiritual fathers. Everything in your house, your own lotion, body lotion, it is mixed with anointing oil, Lion of Judah oil, from your spiritual father. The water you drink, you drop a few drops of the holy water that you got from your spiritual father. So everything about your life, before you go to work, you apply a bit of anointing oil on your face, or even put a cross on your forehead, or even spray yourself around your body to protect yourself from evil spirits, or to open doors for you wherever that you're going, or to attract fortunes or good luck. Not knowing that everything that you're doing, you're subjecting yourself to a life of being manipulated and being controlled. You are all remote controlled by your fathers in the Lord. You call them fathers in the Lord. Fathers in the Lord. Spiritual fathers. They are devil worshippers. Many of you, you are tied. Your lives are bound. You are in bondage. Unknowingly so. Because if you knew, you could have left. Right? We can both agree that if you knew, you could have left. But you are in there simply because you think you are doing the right thing. You actually think you are doing the right thing. You actually think you are serving God. You think you are in the right place. I know you think that. That's why you get prompted the moment we talk about your spiritual fathers to come to their defense and say, no, touch not the anointed. This one is a good man of God. This one is being used by God. These ones are being used by the devil. As hard as it is for you to believe it, to accept it, that is the truth. They are operating under the devil's curse. Because anything from the devil is a curse. Everything that your spiritual fathers have is cursed. Everything that they teach is cursed. Everything that they do is cursed. Everything that they touch is cursed. Whenever you allow them to lay their hands on your forehead, they are just transferring the curse. It doesn't matter what they say on their pulpits. It is cursed. And if you receive it, you are also now under a curse. If you shout, I receive, when they declare and decree, you are only binding yourself to their curse. When you say you are tapping into their anointing, it's not anointing you are tapping into. You are tapping into their curse because they are under a curse. When you say you are covered by the anointing of your father, what you're literally saying, not knowing, is you are being held hostage by the curse, diabolic curse of your spiritual father.